So I put a lot of energy into going in detail on TV shows and movies, but I'm gonna do something a little different this week. I just finished Hunger by Roxane Gay. And I mean just finished. Like 20 minutes ago I was sitting on the couch in another room reading the book. Even though this is the first book of hers that I've successfully completed, I am just like a huge Roxane Gay fan in general. I actually got the chance to see her on her book tour for Hunger, and it was just a delightful opportunity. She's hilarious and down to earth and just very disarming while still being super brilliant. Like, she's really like that really cool, fun, well-spoken aunt who does all of these awesome things with her life, and every time she talks to you, you're just like, oh, what have I done to deserve this? I have several of those in real life, but I would love it if Roxane Gay were my actual aunt. Please, oh please, oh please. I would super recommend going and seeing her in real life if you have the opportunity to do that. I mean, the ticket comes with a book and a signing, like, look, there's my name, it's right there. Ah! I read like the first half of the book just sitting in the room waiting for the book signing, and so I still had her voice like in my head reading the thing, and that was just a delightful experience. And I found myself honestly wanting the line to take longer so I could just sit and finish it in one sitting. That is a somewhat rare but thoroughly enjoyable thing to happen when you read a book. She calls the book a memoir of my body, and it's about her relationship with her body over the course of her life and what that has looked like and how she moves through the world and is treated as a fat woman. And that particular aspect for me was eye-opening because that's not the way that I move through the world. And I'm always incredibly thankful when someone tells their story with a lot of vulnerability and honesty about the ways that they are treated that I would not assume happen, and explains what things that I do that may be unintentionally hurtful to people. She is just able to articulate so well things that I have never personally felt, and I want to be able to understand them, and she made me understand them. And describes this feeling of wanting so much to have control and power over her body and to be outside of it at the same time. It's not only the story itself, but the way in which she writes it that just brings you fully and completely in a way that felt like I was not doing any of the work there. But to call this book just merely a lens into the life of a fat person is reductive and inaccurate. She takes a very critical and thoughtful dive into the ways that culture and media and society tend to treat women's bodies in general, fat bodies in general, her body. She talks about the ways in which she is prevented from moving around freely in a public space, able to be present and physically comfortable and able to make her way without criticism or commentary. She talks about what boundaries she has had in her life and what the difference is when you do or don't have boundaries, and what that means about how you value yourself and how you allow the people around you to value you. She talks about the struggle she's had with herself and with all of the exercise, diet, and things that she has tried to do to force her body to comply with what the world tells her it needs to be. She talks about closing into herself and trying to make herself as small as possible so she won't inconvenience others. She talks about the ways in which her physical space inform her mental space. She talks about trauma, she talks about family, she talks about race, she talks about all of her different experiences in her life and the way that it influenced her thinking about herself and her worth and her body and her interactions with other people, and the legitimate struggles that are present in all of that, and not the kind of struggles that, oh yes, this used to be something I worried about, but now that's all better. She talks about so many things in just like an intelligent and thoughtful and raw way, and she never frames it as a heroic journey or ties things nicely in a bow. And she's honest not so people can see it and say, look how raw and honest she's being, but because it's a way of her just giving what she has to offer. In the first part of the book, she says this, which I thought was very telling. The story of my body is not a story of triumph. This is not a weight loss memoir. There will be no pictures of a thin version of me, my slender body emblazoned across this book's cover with me standing on one leg of my former, fatter self's jeans. This is not a book that will offer motivation. I don't have any powerful insight into what it takes to overcome an unruly body and unruly appetites. Mine is not a success story. Mine is simply a true story. And it is. It's the true story of her and her life and her musings and her constant grappling for freedom and value and worth on a level that both transcends and is heavily informed by her physical reality. And it's funny, it's honestly funny, and not in a like, we're gonna sprinkle in some jokes to make you feel less uncomfortable, but you can tell it just honestly comes from the way that she's framing this situation. Someone once described her to me as spicy, and I think that is pretty much the most accurate way to describe her humor. It is very spicy. She is very spicy in the best way possible. I did at times find myself feeling like some things were very repetitive or overhauled, but I also saw her talk about this for an hour and have just like heard her discussions of things in general, so that may be where that's coming from. I would recommend not reading it in increments if possible, and if you do, read it in the increments that she set out, because sometimes you may spend so much time digesting and thinking about what you read that when you come back to it, you bring another set of expectations that makes the reading experience a little less good. There are some memoirs that are good and accurate and informative, but there are some that I just love where you feel like you're floating through someone's life and experience and just understanding in a way that you cannot summarize in a Wikipedia article. This was one of those memoirs. But no matter what your gender or your body type is, you will learn something from this. And I feel like that something will be about the world, but it will also be about yourself. I'm gonna review a book. Book? It came out in June. It took me a few days. You've never reviewed a book before. This is good, isn't it? Yes, it is. You see? You're finally recognizing your talent. You're moving up. Honey, this is wonderful. Yeah, I really hope the 3 people who knew what I was referencing there enjoyed that because, oops. Why do you keep stopping the recording? It's still going. Oh. She calls the book a memoir. Does she? You're fine! To Jaclyn. Yay.